Elizabeth, we appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just start with your reaction to, what happened in Hopkins this morning.
You both said it so truthfully of how tragic this is. And one of the things I've been thinking about since I heard about the story is while these children are physically safe, the 6 that were in the home, I think about their emotional safety being shattered here, right? We don't quite know what they witnessed. We don't know for how long, particularly they were distressed. And so I think about while they were physically unharmed, what does it mean for their internal regulation and then their internal experience to see such an experience of their safety being shattered?
There are 6 families out there that are having to deal with this right now, but invariably at some point, maybe all of us and our children are going to go through some kind of incident. Maybe not at this level, but what are some of the signs of stress, Elizabeth, that maybe we as parents should be looking for?
That's a great question. We as adults, we have the ability to typically express what's going on. But for children, even children 5 and under, they're not going to have the language to talk about their experiences. So as parents, what you would most likely be paying attention to is their behaviors. What are they displaying at home? For 5 and under, we would be seeing sleep difficulties, regression in toileting, regressive behavior, maybe big emotions, big tantrums. You might even be able to say to yourself, this isn't my kid anymore, or they're acting like they're younger than usual. That's them trying to express and process the dysregulation they feel in their body.
Okay, so if that happens, what is a parent to do?
Great question. So it doesn't necessarily mean after a tragic incident that we immediately need to call a professional. They're there if needed and can immediately support. But as a parent, what you can do is some simple things. First and foremost, demonstrate that you are safe and your home is safe. And what that can be done is showing routine, showing that you're regulated, answering questions as they come up, and getting back to business as usual. The other thing that can be really helpful as a parent is creating opportunities for them to express, but this is different than forcing them to. It's creating opportunities. So that includes play, art, activities, even maybe some shows that talk about situations like this. What it does is it creates the opportunity for them to discuss or share or act out what they need to, but it's not a direct conversation and we can't expect information right away.
And Elizabeth, I'm curious, just for the parents at home, should they be talking to their kids about safety? And if so, how do they do that? Especially when you're talking about a child potentially under the age of 5.
That's a really great question. So what we want to be looking at is having these discussions that are age appropriate. So for 5 and over, yes, they're old enough to know a phone number. They're old enough to know how to call 911. But for 5 and under, they don't. So it's important to think about what would be age appropriate. I think some of the things that we talk about is not going with strangers, seeking an adult for help. What's challenging here in this particular case is for 5 and under, they might not have been able to even call 911 or do anything in that moment. So we think about safety as how do we keep ourselves safe and not engage with things that are scary.
Now, for those children who may be exposed to this headlines here today, in the news, and it's showing up in their social media feeds, if the kids are connected at that age, and we know a lot of them are, what kind of conversation should parents be having with their families and children tonight?
It reminds me a lot of just almost a year ago now, our tragedy with the Annunciation shooting, right? And what particularly comes up for our families is daycare and school are an extension of our homes. We expect them to be safe. And when a situation happens like this, even if it's isolated and not an immediate concern to the community, it can be really scary to think about, am I safe to leave? And so as a parent, I think some of the great conversations can be around how do we keep you safe? How do I make sure I check before we go places to know that this provider is safe? How will I always come home to get you? You can know that I'm here for you to talk as things come up. And so I think it's this important thing of we have this conversation around this is our reality and here's how I am going to keep you safe.
And especially trying to navigate it depending on the age of the child. Elizabeth, I can tell you, I have a 4-year-old at home. Sometimes you get a lot of answers, sometimes you don't. So I'm very curious of if you try to have these sort of conversations, no matter if it is, you know, one particular trauma incident or just something big or small, what if they don't say much? Should that be concerning? What should you do?
You know, I have a 5-year-old home who won't even give me details about her day, like her day at camp, right? So how do we expect that they're going to talk about these incidences? And so I think the piece for me is always just create an opportunity and express that you're here if there's anything they want to share, but don't expect like a chronological detail. What you'll typically see is little bits of information spread out, typically through play or other opportunities.
And really quickly, should you push for that though? Like, should you follow up with more questions, or should you just sort of back off? Right. Okay.
Yeah. No, I typically wouldn't, is because for kids, if they feel there's too much pressure or there's some reason that they need to share, they might feel like I have to keep this internal. I don't want mama to get upset. So creating those opportunities, but with the understanding and awareness that you're just going to get snippets as they show. You can't have a direct line of questioning.
Yeah, it's a safe place.
I think what I hear you saying is just give them the space if they want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Or bring it up.
Yes.
Elizabeth, we appreciate your time. Elizabeth Kittleson, child psychologist, talking us through just how to talk with our kids at home about any incident.
So valuable, Elizabeth. Thank you. Thanks for your time here this afternoon.